Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor of and privilege of talking to a former NWA World Tag Team Champion, and for the very first time, he will be stepping into Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 4. He is the one and only Royce Isaacs. Royce, what's going on, my man?
Not much, man. Just getting my workouts done, prepping for Saturday and trying to stay in good shape, but also not, want peak performance. So trying to stay hydrated, stretch out, stay ready for Saturday. I'm good, man. How you doing, Woods?
Yes, absolutely. And to be peak physical condition, because this Saturday, February 13th, is the fourth incarnation of Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. This is my WrestleMania. This is my Christmas, right? For somebody that delves both in pro wrestling and in MMA, a lot of people will say like Eddie Bravo's, combat jiu-jitsu is kind of like that, the evolution from straight grappling to full-on MMA. Well, I feel, in my definition, Bloodsport is right there. I mean, again, this is only submissions and knockouts only. That's it.
Yeah,
we're not going
absolutely. I personally grew up a big fan of like super old school pancrase, like back when like Ken Shamrock was Wayne Shamrock and stuff like that. Like I enjoy that style, and it's really cool to kind of be part of, I guess, like the new age version of that. So I'm pumped.
No, 100%. And I love that and this is the funny thing about it, right? And this has almost defined my career, right? Where pro wrestling fans may not take to MMA, right? And MMA fans may not take to pro wrestling, but you talk to pro wrestlers, they love MMA. You talk to MMA fighters, they love pro wrestling. I mean, short of like DC saying Thug Rose when, Rose Namajunas won the title, he, in the similar octave, was all hyped when Seth Rollins cashed in at WrestleMania. So just saying.
I think that really when it comes down to it, like it's fans are going to be fans. So they kind of get like their territorial, like, oh, I like this best, so it's the best. But for us, we all like combat. We like combat sports. We like entertainment. And then you look at if you go back to the roots of both pro wrestling and like catch fighting and shoot fighting, they came from the same place. They were birthed from the same womb. And some people might be aware of that. Some people aren't as aware of that. But like, we're basically, brothers and sisters. So it makes sense when we have something like Bloodsport that's like, emerging, of the two.
No, 100%. And I mean, for those that don't know about pancrase, I mean, if you were a shoot fighter in the early 90s, that was essentially the only way that you could ply your trade is go to Japan. And the two founders of pancrase, right? And I think it's a pretty apropos that we are talking about pancrase because Bloodsport's namesake in Josh Barnett, right? This current incarnation, well, he was a champion of pancrase. He was a king of pancrase, along with UFC Hall of Famer Boss Rutan and what have you. But they were started by what? Two pro wrestlers, Suzuki and Funaki, right? Just saying.
100%.
So obviously there's easier ways to make a living than being a professional wrestler, right? So I mean, how did he, right? It is. Yeah. Unless you get some cheap merch, and then it's kind of easy, right? Like, but how did you get? I mean, as a fan, you actually training to become a professional wrestler, how did pro wrestling enter your life?
When I was like really young, when I was a kid, I just turned 32, and so I grew up in like the Attitude Era. So like I guess it was pretty easy that like everything was cool back then, and it was the hot ticket. But my dad was a fan, and we watched it together. That was one of like the early kind of bonding experiences that I had with my dad, and it's something that we're like it's pretty cool that now I'm a wrestler and he gets to watch me, and he's all, he's super geeked about it and into it. So it's kind of like I've had this like lifelong journey with pro wrestling, and yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm definitely like I remember doing spinaroonies as a young chubby kid in my living room watching, and I would watch both. Like I probably watched a little more WWF at the time, but I watched WWF, I watched WCW as I got older, and UFC was actually like accessible. And then because there was times where it was dark and you couldn't find it, I got into that, and I didn't really realize how intertwined they were until later. But I've always had like kind of an interest in both. And then when I found some of the Japanese pro wrestling and indie pro wrestling as I got older, then it was like a real like it's like, oh wow, I would actually really, I think this is something I could do and that I could be a part of. It didn't seem quite so far off, so to say.
That's amazing. Now, in terms of, some of your favorites, because like I have seminal favorites. Anytime you talk about WWF, you talk about WCW, right? Or, two of my favorites. The reason why I know anything about combat sports, right? It was Randy Savage and Bret Hart, right? When he was still a part of the Hart Foundation on Saturday Night's Main Event back in like '87, was a wee young lad, right? But that was it. So when that was done in a ring and done well in a ring, and I can call the match in my head. But that got me involved in like everything that was contested in a ring and later a cage. I could digest Muay Thai. The run of Mike Tyson, right? Lennox Lewis and everything, because it took place in the ring, same type of ring in my head as Randy Savage, Bret Hart. So who are some of your favorites?
I mean, definitely, obviously, Stone Cold and The Rock. Like anyone that is around my age is gonna love those two. I was always a big Kane fan. I was always a big Mankind fan. Obviously, Booker T, Scott Steiner, Diamond Dallas Page, the Outsiders. Obviously, I liked all the really like top guys back then. But man, I think that era was really special because I even remember like all the guys that were in the mid card and whatever as really fun to watch and gripping and entertaining. Like I remember a lot of really gripping like Kai and Tai stuff, and like Goldust, who is still killing it to this day, like crushing it. It's crazy. Like he was amazing back then, and like back then I didn't quite understand why there was this like I kind of hate him, but it's really like I can't take my eyes off the screen kind of thing. Like I didn't understand that yet. I just kind of felt it, and that was really cool.
Now, those are literally like when you talk about Austin, you talk about Booker T. There's a lot of the Outsiders, literally them showing up. I remember watching Nitro and Hall. Well, in my mind, it was Razor Ramon. Like Razor Ramon he doesn't have chains, and he like to see him outside of his like purple and yellow and green attire, right? That was one thing, right? I'm like, he owns other outfits, and then wait, he's in WCW? Like,
yeah,
whoa! Like, I mean, that's crazy, right?
For sure. Yeah, it was definitely a different time and an interesting time, but it was one of the peak times to really be a wrestling fan. It was really cool. There was a lot of there's a lot of really really talented guys now, so I'm not disparaging any of that. I just mean like it was, man, like there are some really all-time greats that were all like peaking right at the right time, and there was the right eyes on wrestling. Like it was just a cool thing. Like you could. The first time I remember getting like suspended at school, like I'm sure I did before this, but the time I remember, we were playing football at lunch, and every time I would either score or throw for a touchdown, I would do the Undertaker like eyes roll back and then into a DX chop, like. And apparently that was you couldn't tell people to suck it in third grade or whatever. So I'd like write a letter apologizing and saying why I was wrong, but it's like. But like also everyone else on the playground thought it was funny because everyone knew what I was doing. Like it was like wrestling was a cool thing. Like
No, absolutely. So, at what point do you decide? Like, you were pretty early on in your kind of, as you're developing into a man, what have you. Did you know like, I'm going to do that?
I really, I didn't. I always just thought it was like this kind of really cool thing that I liked, that I was a fan of. Um, I was an athlete. I played football and I amateur wrestled through high school and in college as well. And so I was an athlete. I worked out a lot. I was. It still just seemed like a kind of a foreign thing that I couldn't really achieve or get to. But towards the end of college, once I wound down like my collegiate career, I did start thinking like, oh, it would be cool to do something that was still competitive and something like there was something that I thought maybe I could be good at, like the combination of competition and entertainment. Like there was something that kind of drew me to it, but I honestly I didn't even start training for another few years after I graduated college. Like I was just in the normal world, working normal jobs. I was a personal trainer, and then I worked at retirement homes for a minute in like the sales. Like I was helping people move in and whatnot. And I was good at those jobs, but I felt pretty unfulfilled, honestly. Like I wasn't like in love with it. There was nothing that fulfilling about life, I guess. And I, I knew I needed something, but even then, I still didn't think like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a wrestler, or this is going to be the thing that I dedicate my life to, or whatever. I had my friend's girlfriend at the time found a show in Denver. I lived in Denver, Colorado at the time, and my friend's girlfriend found this show called Lucha Libre and Laughs that they still run in Denver, Colorado. It's a really good show, but it's like kind of like a comedy show / wrestling show, like where they have stand-up comedians, and it's really cool. But I went to the show, and then afterwards, I remember just thinking like, okay, I gotta like try this out at least. Like I don't know if I can do this or I'll be good, but like it could be a cool thing that I, one day, 20 years from now, tell my kids like, hey, I tried this out and it was fun. And the promoter Nick told me where to start training. And I want to say I started. It was like the show was a Sunday. I started training 2 days later on that Tuesday, and like when I was done with in wrestling training, if anyone out there has ever done it or hasn't done that that's listening to this, like it sucks. Like it literally everything hurts, and if you're first starting out, everything really because you're learning how to fall, you're learning how to run the ropes, all of it, like you have bruises all the way up and down your back, your neck's sore, like your brain's like, are we like this is what we're doing now for fun? It's miserable, but I do remember distinctly at the end of my first practice, I'm completely beat up. I'm like, I haven't done anything cool. I haven't even done a body slam. All I've done is learn how to not die falling and run the ropes, and then how to protect myself while getting thrown around a little bit. And I was like, man, if I could like make this my job, that would be really, really cool. So like that's when the moment when I was like, okay, maybe I could do this, or maybe this could be something fun. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, obviously, I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but like there used to be like MTV True Life. I want to be a professional wrestler. I think the guy was doing this, Matt Taglia, and he like literally, scarred all of that, like all of his ish, just running ropes. And, there's an art to it, to be, you can watch Mania and you can see like even the most elite of pro wrestlers, it takes like a minuscule of a millimeter and it can go all wrong where it snaps back at you. So what was that process like? And I mean, your body almost develops calluses, to running the ropes and everything. That's part of, kind of that tutelage, that getting in and learning your bumps, taking your bumps.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like a kind of like literally your body does harden up and callus up, and your muscles have to get used to like how you tense up when you fall, so that way your head doesn't snap back and you don't hurt yourself. It's really, really tough. I don't think like when you add in all the physical stuff and all the mental stuff and anything like political or whatever that you're navigating through in pro wrestling, like it's the hardest thing that I've ever done, and I've dedicated I guess it's almost 7 years of my life to it now, since I first started. I started training when I was 25. Um, the place that I went to in Denver, it was called the Butcher Shop. I believe they still have a butcher shop now. I'm not sure, but it's not in the same spot. It was in this warehouse in the middle of like I want to say Adams City, like the industrial town in Denver. And like the first day I got there, it's in the middle of nowhere, and I pull up, and this guy Bubba, who was at the gym, he's like an old retired wrestler, and he's like outside, and he's like, "Yeah, man, like someone just stole my truck out front, like it was like right here," and I'm like, is this what I really want to do with my life? Like I'm gonna leave my car out here, and I'm gonna go in here and hope that it doesn't get stolen, and then I'm gonna go beat myself up and like hope I don't die. But it's like there's something about wrestling that it's just like when you find like your thing that connects with you. It was my thing. It was like I don't know, love at first sight or whatever you want to call it, like love at first practice. Like I was just like, yeah, like this is. I'll put myself through whatever. I'll sacrifice whatever. It's been a long, long journey, but it's also like the worst day wrestling is still usually better than the best day in like an office job or whatever. So I wouldn't trade it for anything, man.
I can't. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. And again, to kind of host that show, and then now you're training and taking bombs. That's amazing. Now, I gotta ask, what was your first show after you started training, and at what point in your career did that happen? Was it months? Was it years?
Um, so I think the original plan was like I was going to train for 6 months and all these practice matches and whatever, what have you. But honestly, I think it was maybe like 2.5 months into training. It was like, hey, there's a show coming up and we want you on it. And it's like, I'm not going to say no. Like, of course, like this is what I want to do. It was for Primo's Professional Wrestling in Denver, Colorado, and it was at Club Fuego Fuego, which is like this small club in Aurora. I think it's like a salsa club, like a salsa bar or something like that, maybe usually. Um, I mean, it's cool vibes or whatever. The video of the match is out there. It was me and three other guys that were debuting on a team. We were called the Upgrades, and we were facing like four. It was a 4-on-4, which is not like super ideal for your first match. And like the club was like I'm not the most tall human being, but I'm also not the least tall. But on the second rope, and this is I'm just in wrestler shoes, not boots yet even. So like literally, it's basically just barefoot. Like wrestler shoes are basically if anyone has never, if you've never amateur wrestled or watched and paid attention to someone's feet that are in wrestler shoes, they're basically, it's like your foot with like just a very thin layer right around it. So it's basically like your foot on the ground or whatever. And on the second rope, like my head was like, I was like, oh snap, that's like the ceiling. Like you got to be careful in there. But we had like a really good turnout. Like I want to say there was like probably like 200 or 300 people there or whatever, which for an indie show in Denver in 2014 is not bad. And I mean, it wasn't definitely was not like a 5-star classic, but you know what? I got it done, and I had a good time, and I was hooked. I was like, this is really really amazing. It's like one of those like you get that adrenaline rush, and you feel alive. And I was just like, yeah, like this is what I wanted it to be. Now I need to actually get good at it.
Now, I mean, what do you mean, Royce? Like your first match was in a Dave Meltzer 5-star match? What?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what you would even search for, but it's on YouTube. If anyone wants to go find it, it's like the Upgrades versus something. I don't know, but it's out there. I will say our finisher was pretty hot. Our finisher was dope. I like picked someone up in a power bomb, and this dude Darshan hit off the ropes, and he jumped up and gave the dude a lariat, and it like went like super smooth, and that was still pretty cool. I was like, this is pretty sick, but no, the match was terrible.
That's amazing. And now you mentioned about like the adrenaline and blood rushing to your head. You sure that wasn't the altitude in Denver? Because that could have been it too.
Dude, I mean, maybe a little bit, but hey, shout out to Denver. I miss the Mile High City. I miss being able to do my high altitude training and feeling like anytime I'd go for like an out of town show, I'm like, man, my cardio is great. I'm asthmatic, and like I'd be like, my cardio is the best. Now I actually have to like do burpees and all this miserable stuff to keep myself in shape. It's tough.
That's tremendous. Yeah, exactly. There's a reason why the Olympic Training Center, like some of the most elite, not just pro wrestling, but also MMA gyms, elevation fight team, and everything. That's you there because those fighters, I think the best or worst story of the altitude training was, Cain Velasquez and Fabricio Verdun fighting over the UFC heavyweight title in Mexico City, right? And Verdun went. Oh, you have a Mexico City story? Please.
I've so in 2017, 2018, it must be 2018. I think May 2018, I wrestled in Mexico City, and it was I was under a hood. It was like a steampunk, like lucha kind of thing. It was kind of cool. It was called Vapor. It was a 4-on-4. It was me. Jungle Boy was one of my partners, and then there was it was a Pro Wrestling Revolution kind of helped put it on. It was for Dragon Mania, which is like Ultimo Dragon's year. Every year he does like an anniversary show, and it was 4-on-4. It was us versus like Team All Japan. So like Jun Akiyama and Zeus were in the match, and it was like so fun and awesome. But like, thank goodness it was a 4-on-4 because I remember like I'd be in there for like a minute and then I'd get out and then I'm like, I am so like this is another level. Like I have a mask on so I can't breathe. And then like we get done and I'm just like I take the mask off and I'm just like covered, like glazed donut all over, and I won't stop. I'm like drinking electrolyte, like the kind of like Gatorade type of thing or whatever, and like I just can't stop sweating and I can't stop breathing hard. It was like probably like 30 minutes after the match, I was still like just like sweating out and like miserable and just like I don't even know. I don't know how you would do like a 5-round heavyweight fight. Like they can't tag out. There's no like people on the apron waiting for them. Like they just have to go for 25 minutes. That's like another level. Because if like for people that don't know, I want to say it's like 8,000 something feet. So it's like 1.5 Denvers, basically altitude wise. It's like it's insane.
Man, that's yeah, that is insane. That is insane. And I mean, most people that would tell the story, Verdum actually, who's Brazilian, he not only learned, Spanish, but he trained at an altitude higher than Mexico City, right? And went a month out versus, essentially somebody that has brown pride, like taps it across their chest and has a Mexican flag every time they win, it clinched in their glove. And he went like a week before, and he's
Smart.
usually cardio Kane, but that Mexico City wins every time.
Yeah, man. I mean, like 8,000 feet is really that's like so insanely high. Like even compared to a person that lived in Denver. I lived in Denver from age 8 to like age 28, and it's just not. I can't even compare in terms of just altitude. It's pretty crazy. But I will say, Mexico City was really cool. The fans in Arena Mexico were cool. It was like it was a huge crowd. Like Arena Mexico is for Lucha Libre. If you're near there and you happen to be able to catch any kind of a show in Arena Mexico, I guess they're probably shut down at the moment. But like whenever things are more open around there, I really recommend it because it's like a really cool historic venue for that kind of thing.
That's amazing. Again, transcending and being able to travel the world, on your skill and on essentially your craft. That's essentially the mission statement for every artist, right? And that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, man. That's you make memories and you get to do some stuff that you really like. I have memories I wouldn't trade for anything in the world, and I'm very lucky that I've been able to do some traveling for my wrestling.
No, 100%. Which BJ Darden, Bad Blood, right? The
Good
longest
man.
reigning. Yeah, shout out to you, Bad Blood, and check out the BCW Worldwide Roundtable podcast. It's going down like literally tonight, and I think they have Sir Mo of Men on a Mission, so check that
Okay.
out. I'm just saying.
That's it. Hell
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So, so as we're in the Pacific Northwest region, Don McGuire wants to know what did Defy Wrestling, and shout out to Matt Farmer, but what did Defy Wrestling add to your story, good sir?
Oh man. Defy was a really cool one for me. I mean, I would say that their resume speaks for itself in terms of being one of the best indie products anywhere, like worldwide. Like you're gonna have a hard time finding a better indie wrestling product than what Defy puts out. My tag team partner, Jarrell Nelson, I'm in a tag team called the West Coast Wrecking Crew. For anyone that does not know, and he is a native of Seattle, so he's a a Pacific Northwest guy, and so that was kind of like his like hometown kind of promotion. And so when we got the opportunity, I want to say November 2018 or something like that. I think that I want to say it was like Thanksgiving time 2018 was the first time we were able to wrestle there. I was like, oh, like this is like a big deal in the indies. Like this could be a really really good one. And we ended up going back a few times and getting to wrestle with them again. But we had a good run with the Defy tag titles. That's definitely some gold that I would like to get back. It's a really cool belt. It's like if no one's seen it, it's like or if anyone hasn't seen it, excuse me, it's like a bright yellow, and it's like a diamond kind of shape. It's very unique. And yeah, I mean the crowds at Washington Hall are great. Like diehard like indie wrestling fans that get after it and they chant all night. Yeah, they just have like a great atmosphere, and they put on a top-notch product. They have like the best guys that are around that area, and then they bring in talent from literally all over. Like they'll bring people in from across overseas. They'll bring people in from the East Coast. Like they put on really top-notch product, and I know it's tough, especially on the West Coast. Everything is pretty shut down right now, but hopefully they get back to being able to put on shows, and I would love to have another run there with Jarrell. As soon as that happens, because to me their product is really really top notch, and I think they just got like a TV deal. Like I'm not sure I can't remember what the channel is exactly, but they just like a few days ago, so they're doing really well. They're putting stuff out there, and yeah, man, shout out to Defy. They definitely. That was a really fun spot to wrestle in, hopefully in the future too.
No, tremendous. And BJ Darden echoing the sentiments, Defy is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah.
I do concur. I love watching it on the tube of you. I'm just saying. Now, first off, I want to say I love that you and Jarrell are the West Coast Wrecking Crew, right? Because to me, there's like two linchpins, and so some of the great tag teams, right? You're talking about the Andersons. They were the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, right? There's been different iterations, right? But all of those kind of happening, maybe the Southwest, the Midwest, and whatever. So as somebody that was born in Northern California, lived in Southern California, and even had a dalliance, my son, Owen, just showing you how much of a heart person I am. My son's name is Owen, but Owen was born in Bakersfield, so Central California. So to have that Wrecking Crew moniker, and also being a music fan, I mean, one of the greatest session musicians are the Wrecking Crew, right? Kara Kane and what have you. So I love that through YouTube, there is a Wrecking Crew iteration of the West Coast.
Yeah, man. I think it fits us, and it fits like kind of how we wrestle and what we look like and what we like to do. And I think that it's like I like big, like in your face tag teams that look like they're gonna beat you up and stretch you out and have some attitude to them. I was always, I mean, Minnesota Wrecking Crew obviously is legendary, but I love Steiner Brothers, are one of my favorite tag teams of all time, and I always loved the aesthetic of early, like when Brock and Shelton were together and they were like the Minnesota Stretching Crew. Like there's something about that I'm just like, that's pretty cool and magical. So we're kind of trying to capture the essence of all that, and at the same time do our own thing, bring our own swagger to it. And you know what I mean? Like we both, like we've wrestled all over the West Coast, and we want to represent for that. And I think the West Coast is really strong in terms of wrestling talent, and I think I want to be proud of that, and I want to show that. So
there it is. And Bad Blood also saying that BCW Worldwide is in Portland, so we would love to have you once we open back up. So, bing bang.
Rockin', man. Hell yeah. Appreciate
Hell
that.
Yeah. Now, speaking of unique tag teams and unique tag team title wins, I'd be remiss because I literally have an NWA 10 pounds of gold replica, and it's probably one of the most infamous autographs because I've got Superstar Billy Graham, Harley Race, Shane Douglas, Raven, yeah, like all on one belt, signed and everything like that. So you are a former NWA World Tag Team Champion during the time of Power, and what I loved about it, right, was, obviously WWE is going to do what they do, AEW, and they're battling for a certain segment of fans, right? There was a pivot that happened with NWA Power that essentially what you guys were producing were a type of wrestling that, I mean, it wasn't the big two or even Impact or whatever, but it was a very awesome kind of like a pivot from, it gave us a lot of fans that were lapsed of the 80s era, you yourself being a WCW fan, much like I am, right? And pre-WCW, there was Jim Crockett Promotion, and it was almost a tipping of the hat. And I love the fact that during that era of resurgence, that you and Thomas Latimer were NWA champions, tag team champions. So how was that experience for you?
Yeah, man, that was definitely a wild ride. I think it was shout out to all the fans that came to see us at the studio tapings. It was like a really cool atmosphere there. Like, I mean, if you go back and you watch those episodes of Power, like they really like the audience was great. Like they just like they gave like an aura to everything that was really like fun. It was a really fast-paced show, and kind of showcased studio wrestling on a bigger stage, which now like pretty much everyone's kind of having to do studio wrestling because it's like you can't really have normal events as much anyways. And yeah, man, yeah, there was something real special that was captured there in those first seasons of Power. And like, I mean, it goes to show you see the talent in the locker room, and you see some of the people and what they've now gone on to do. And even in a pandemic, a lot of them are thriving. And yeah, I made some really great friends, and it was, man, achieving something like a World Tag Team Champion was a great thing. And shout out to Tom. And I would love to. I want to achieve something like a World Tag Team Championship again, but this time I want to do it with Jarrell, and that's no slight to Tom by any means. It's just Jarrell's someone that I've teamed with for a long time now, and I see something really special with him and with the West Coast Wrecking Crew. So I'd like to bring that to an even bigger stage.
That's tremendous. I love it. Now, you, as somebody that has been privileged enough to see you wrestle in person, I would say you're defined by a double F. And I'm not talking about flash funk, folks. I'm talking about like finesse. And I mean, your flash, right? The fringes from your boots and your armbands and all that jazz, right? So
yeah,
you this Saturday will be stepping into Bloodsport, where it's not. I mean, if you're going to do double F, it's fighting and fist, right? So how have you prepared for Bloodsport? Because this is a complete departure from what you're used to doing. So how have you prepared for Bloodsport?
Yeah, I think they would say all steak, no sizzle, or whatever. I think kind of thing. I mean, I'm also the good thing is I was a collegiate wrestler, so I do have a background in shoot wrestling, as they say. Uh, I will say I mean, I graduated college in 2011, so I'm quite a bit a ways from that. The good thing is I've been able to roll a bit and prepare. I've trained a little bit with Josh. I've trained a little bit with Bad Dude Tito and some others. So I have been able to sharpen up my skills. Like I think my wrestling skills are better than they really ever have been. I think that a lot of the stuff that I've learned along the way with professional wrestling, it's like, sure, there's not the, oh yeah, let me like add to the entertainment and show off to the crowd side of it. But I do think there are certain holds and uh, leverage maneuvers and being able to throw, being able to suplex somebody is being able to suplex somebody. And even though my suplexes in a lot of my pro wrestling matches are flashy, a lot of them are also flashy because of deadlifts. And so, it's like if I'm going to have to just pick someone up anyways, then fine. That's not a problem for me. I'm just going to have to pick them up anyway. So um, I feel like I'm ready. I've been doing extra road work and extra cardio in addition to really sticking on my workouts. Um, my nutrition's really on point. The good thing about this pandemic is I've learned to actually cook for myself and enjoy it. So I feel like I'm actually I might be 32 and technically a little bit like whatever you'd consider past your peak or whatever. But I honestly feel like as an athlete, I'm kind of reaching my peak in many ways, and that I'm able to actually kind of keep improving. So you know, I know Calder McCall is going to be a tough task. I know he's no pushover. No one at Bloodsport is going to be a pushover. I'll put it that way. But it's like that includes me. You know what I mean? Like I've been preparing. I've been getting ready for this, and it's like I think the tagline. It's like when there's nothing left to do, we fight. And it's like they're really there. What else is there to do? Like so, I'm ready to fight. Like this is fighting for me, and it's fighting for my future. So I'm ready to do it, man.
I mean, I am excited again. This for me is like the premier. It's not just pro wrestling. It's not just MMA. It's just like the combat sports event of the year for me. And the fact that it's happening on 2 consecutive Saturdays, I cannot wait. Now, going back to the NWA deal, uh, Bad Blood, he's saying, being a guy who is a huge NWA fan growing up, that he can actually personally say that he's an NWA champion and actually has the belt in his display case. It's pretty damn cool.
Hell yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, it's an amazing feeling. I've been very privileged. I've had an interesting career in that I've held the NWA tag title, world tag titles, which is a really amazing feeling. But I've also held the DDT Ironman Heavy Metalweight Championship, which is like the weirdest belt in pro wrestling. So like I have this kind of array of interesting. Like it's been a weird journey, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I've been able to kind of go all over and do stuff like DDT, where it's very high level wrestling, but very weird in some ways, or like fun, like there's some funny stuff. And then the NWA, where it's more old school. And then there's Bloodsport. Now I'm going to get to do something that is, I mean, just like the ultimate level of, this is like like this is a tough fight between, two men, an athletic contest, and you just go in there and you leave it all on the table, and you either go out on your shield or you go out, with your sword in your hand. So
yeah. Oh my goodness. And now Don McGuire saying, and being so kind, I don't know much about wrestling like me. That's all right. You've shot some of the biggest stars in MMA and had them on your podcast. So shout out to you, Don McGuire, and the Fighter's Voice. But he says one thing that he does know, Royce, that it's your career and you are an inspiration. That's got to be cool.
That's really cool. I appreciate that. Shout out to you, Don McGuire. That means a lot to me, brother.
Now, your opponent for Saturday is one Calder McCool, and it's crazy, right? Because he's a Scotsman by birth, right? There's another Scotsman, Drew McIntyre, who's a WWE champion right now, right? And the fact that you and he's kind of past have you wrestled and shared some similar locker rooms across the West Coast, and even beyond, right? And I think this stylistically is an amazing matchup because obviously Calder has relocated to Vegas. He's employing a lot of MMA techniques, right? But what are you kind of building to kind of thwart everything that he brings to you?
Well, I mean, Calder's a tough dude. I want to say that he is a trainer at the UFC gym in Vegas. Like he comes from a background as well, and he's done a lot of jujitsu. And like to me, he's a formidable pro wrestling opponent. But I think this might be his most formidable. Like it's like this is an arena that he is very familiar with. So he's, you might say it's an away game for me, but at the same time, I've really been training hard. Getting to train with Josh a bit has really sharpened my skills and only made me even better. Kind of brought out some of my skills that maybe were lacking for a minute that I hadn't worked on in a while, and taking my strength and sharpening them, and then taking some of my weaknesses and making them into strengths. So. I'm not underestimating Calder by any degree. I think that he's a very, very dangerous opponent. I would say that in terms of striking and in terms of submissions, he's definitely someone that I'm not going to give him just an overall advantage in anything. I'm not going to just concede anything to him before the fight actually starts. But that's something that he has more experience in for certain. In the wrestling sense, I definitely think that I have an advantage, and that also goes into like you can knock someone out with a throw or a suplex. Like just because someone else can knock you out with a strike doesn't mean you can't also drop someone on their head and knock them out. So it's like I think there's a very interesting dynamic at play, and I think the fact that I haven't really done something in this style also gives me an air of there's the surprise of what can he doesn't have fight film to really watch on. He's not going to be able to watch, me and Tom versus Brody King and PCO to like really game study for this, because it's not, it's not like something he can be like, oh, he's going to come at me with that. It's going to be a completely different style. He kind of doesn't know what he's in.
Man, which I have to ask, right? You've been fortunate enough, or maybe not, because he is the War Master, Josh Barnett, right? Former UFC heavyweight champion, former King of Pancrase, and a litany of other. I mean, I think he's the only person to have a submission grappling title win in Metamoris, right? A UFC title win, Pancrase, IWGP, and there's probably a couple things that I'm probably missing, right? But you've rolled with him, right? And
yep.
How crazy was that experience? Because I've seen a couple of your other, kind of your stablemates in this particular card have had similar stories. Harry Smith. We're talking about Cal Jack. We're talking about Tom Waller, as well as Simon Grimm. All people that have been in the formidable hands of the War Master. What was that experience like?
Painful. It's interesting though. You just listed off his resume. So I'll put it this way. When a guy taps out Dean Lister, it's like I'm joining good company when I'm tapping out, but also it's always like teaching, and you're learning and you're finding new skills. And then it's like, okay, so he got me with that. Now I can come back at him with this new thing I learned, and then he'll get me with his counter that he already knows from his years of experience. But then I learn the counter to that counter. So it's like a video game, I guess, where you keep dying and then you go back to the start, but you're like, okay, but now I know how to jump at this part or whatever, so I don't die there. And then like you get there and you got sick. I got to the next part, and then a spike falls on you. Like, okay, that time, next time I'll go, and then I'll stop right there. So the spike falls, and then I'll continue. So it's like like you're just learning. You know, it's learning, but it's painful learning, and it's some of the toughest, most tired I've ever been in anything. You know, like it's so physically taxing, but at the same time, I think that's what makes it so rewarding when you're pushing your body to, like, there's something, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but like there is something about being able to go to that mountaintop of like pushing your body to its absolute limit and seeing like, okay, can I keep going? And all right, I'm still breathing, I'm still alive, let's go again. And I don't know, it's man making stuff, you know what I mean? Like you just, there's nothing like it.
Now, obviously, this is going to be some of the most athletically taxing, part of your entire career, your life, right? Going into Bloodsport. But amongst the card, aside from your own, what other matches are you looking forward to see? What other fights are you looking to see?
I mean, the obvious one, Dickinson and Cobb. I'm a huge fan of both of their wrestlings. I think they're both tremendous athletes. I think they're both tremendous. Like you're talking about people that are like really, really intense. I wrestled Jeff Cobb probably 4 years ago at this point, and I think he gave me a belly to belly suplex, and like it was one of those things where like I was like in the air, like, oh, like the vibe is floating. Like, do I just exist up here? Like, am I on a cloud? And then I was like, oh, boom! Like now I'm back on the ground. He's otherworldly strong. It's crazy. And Chris is a guy that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, but at the same time, like he's definitely on like the dream list of opponents that I want to wrestle because his intensity and what his style that he brings to the ring, it's just like he's a very dangerous. And I mean that as a big compliment. He's a very, very dangerous man. Anyone that I look at like that with that level of respect, it's like you want to be in there with that person and see that reflection of yourself of like, can I hold my own with someone that's this damn good and this damn intense. So I think that match is that's a really, really intriguing matchup because they're both very intense and they both have extensive backgrounds, but very different. And I'll be interested to see how they kind of mesh. I'm also very excited to see how Diego Perez does in his match. I know he's not in the pro wrestling world. He's not as known. He's an MMA fighter, but he's a guy that I've been able to roll around with a little bit. And I have some like scars in my mouth from him cross-facing me and us wrestling. He's a really, really tough guy, and I think he's going to surprise a lot of people at Bloodsport. And I don't know too much about his opponent Gil, but I know that he's a really talented guy, and I think that they're going to have it'll be a clash of two titans, kind of thing. That I think that's like the kind of the sleeper pick on the card, so to say.
Yeah, I don't think that it could be as good as the last every time, and even before, Josh Barnett had it, it was Matt Riddle's, right? That, and I didn't think that, it could top. And then, or even like, I cried when Riddle got signed to the WWE because I was like, no more Bloodsport. And there couldn't have been a better person to kind of take the torch and the mantle than Josh Barnett, right? So this right here, this is probably as stacked and probably an action-packed a card as there has ever been in Bloodsport history. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think top to bottom, it's like I mentioned those two matches, but they're all going to be good. Any of them are going to be match of the night. It's just like, what do you personally like? Because it's just a bunch of really, really tough athletes that we're all like, none of us have had anything. It's like there's nothing left to do but fight. So we're all ready to leave it all in the ring, and we're all ready to bring it. It's a stacked card. I can't wait for Bloodsport 4. And then coming back Bloodsport 5 a week later, everyone's going to be even hungrier because either, you're going to want to keep your win streak alive or you're going to want to get back in the win column. So it's like, I think this is a really good environment. We're bringing out the best in people. And I'm excited to see what I see in myself. I'm excited to see what the fans see from me and what they think. And I'm excited to do it all again a week later. So I'm ready, man. I'm ready. I'll be ready for February 21st. I'll probably just eat pizza all day and not get out of bed and sleep in. But until then, I'm in blood sport fight mode. You know.
Damn right. Now, BJ Darden says, as a pro wrestler and a combat sports enthusiast, I'm putting my money on Royce Isaacs. Determination is key, and he sees the fighting spirit in you.
I appreciate you, BJ. Hell yeah.
Hell yes. Fight forever. Well, you might, with all the, the damage that are going to be accrued, it might feel like forever, but you don't want to do that all the time.
The goal is actually to fight for as little time as possible, but to be as most effective in that time, I believe.
1,000%. And you might give a little bit of insight here. He said, plus he's been training with bad dude Tito Escondido, friend of the show, and he's in beast mode already.
Yeah, Tito's a bad dude. Just like his name suggests, Tito's a really, really bad dude. He's another one of those guys that I really have a lot of respect for his wrestling and his style, and I think he carries himself really well. I think he's one of those sleepers that not a lot of people, not as many people, I should say, as should recognize how damn good he is.
No, 100%. And I kind of saw it out of him too. I mean, it's crazy because I've talked to some of these people, to these athletes, these fighters, in other iterations, and everyone, you included, sound a little bit different. There was a bit of fight, there's a bit of fear of the unknown, like all of it, right? Which again, if you talk to, whether it be Steve Borden Sting, or you talk about any top tier combat sports athlete, they will tell you that they are scared every time, and that breeds for us as a viewing audience and truly intense environment in blood sports. I can't wait.
Yeah, man. I think it's one of those things that, like, yeah, you do want to feel those butterflies. You do want to feel a little bit of that fear before, because that's also what, after the fact, that's why you get that rush. That's why you feel alive, because you're like, I just did something. That was a scary thing, and I was able to face the metaphorical dragon in my own mind and slay it and come back a victor. And so that's what we're all looking for. And anything less would be a disappointment.
Yes. So a hearty bit of birthday wishes go to you, good sir, because you just turned literally another year around the sun. You made it. And
another revolution, the 8th, yesterday, I think, right? Or the day before?
Yeah. Something like
2 days ago. 2 days ago. That's that dude. In the pandemic, you can't even know what day it is. But yeah, a couple of days ago. Yeah,
it's day. That's all I know. It's day.
It's light out, allegedly, and I'm 32, but I've never felt better, and I'm ready to go, man. The best birthday gift would be a victory at Bloodsport. So
that's what I was going to ask. It was like, by comparison of like birthday presents in years past, what would a win at Bloodsport do for you in comparison to some of your other birthday celebrations?
Last year at my birthday, I went out and got Korean barbecue because there was no real pandemic or anything like that. It was February 8th last year, so that was like a month before, and I probably ate about 10 pounds of brisket barbecued at the table, and I had like the meat sweats going, and that was wonderful, and I had a lot of friends around, and it was great. But a victory at Bloodsport would still be better than that, because I can always, buy frozen brisket to marinate on my own and whatnot, but you can't buy a Bloodsport victory. You just have to go out there and earn that. That's blood, sweat, and tears, and that's, putting in your time and working hard, and it's priceless. So, Bloodsport victory, or that's where that's what I'm aiming for. That's what I want.
Damn right. Oh man. Literally almost in the vein of one Grizzly Cal Jack. You're gonna wear the skin of your opponent as you get in, rather than the the Korean barbecue skin. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, no Korean barbecue skin, please.
Not implying you're accountable or anything.
I mean, that's Army Hammer is apparently, so that's the cool new thing. I've been watching. I finally got into Hannibal on Netflix, that series, and I mean, I guess cannibals are cool, so whatever.
There it is. I mean, we might see something like that at Bloodsport. So again,
We might see a cannibal now.
I mean, there was Salva Simba in the WWF. So I mean, anything is
Anything is possible, bro. Anything
is possible. Never say never.
Yeah. Yeah,
Royce, as you march into Bloodsport this Saturday, right? There have been a litany of people that have helped you, not just in your preparation for Bloodsport, but in your career and your personal life. So by all means, take as long as you need. Let's get some shout outs out of the way, my man.
I mean, first and foremost, shout out to my mother and father, because without them, I would not be here. I definitely want to shout out Jarrell, my best friend and my tag partner, because without him, I also don't know where I'd be at. He's been there for me on some real life ish on more than a number of occasions. And hey, shout out to all my fans, my friends, and my followers, anyone that supported me along the way, anyone that's seen a match of mine and felt some type of way, even if they were like, dude, that guy sucks. Like, hey, that made you feel some type of way. So, yeah, I mean, really just these are tough times, but we're all trying to get through it. So anyone that's taken the time to listen to me talk for the last hour, I appreciate you. Yeah, I think that's all the shout outs that I need for now.
I love it. I love it. Now, before we go, right? I don't usually do picks, but I think this is going to snap me out of every preconceived notion that I usually do. So, Royce Isaacs against Calder McCall. How does this go down? How's it get finished?
I see a suplex finish. I see some kind of maybe like a high angle German, or maybe like a high angle backdrop kind of thing, something like that. Something real violent, and something that takes a lot of back strength and a lot of core strength, because I got both of those in bunches, and I'm looking to take it to the Highlander.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I kind of hope everything ends in a backdrop suplex. I mean, maybe a Takeshi Morishima fan. This
yeah,
time,
man.
right?
That's what's up.
And that's a finish. Damn it, that's a finish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Royce, as you march into Bloodsport, how can people reach out to you on social media to see what you're doing, how you're training, how you're getting your mind prepped and right for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport follower?
Alrighty, at Royce Isaacs on Twitter, at Royce Isaacs on Instagram. I'm not really on Facebook much anymore, but Royce Isaacs on there if you want to follow on there, and prowrestlingtees.com/Royce Isaacs if you want to cop a fresh tee or something like that, or you need like something to wrap around your face or whatever, or any of that stuff. So, but those are all the socials if you want to check me out. I don't really do too much. Like, I don't have a Patreon or Cameo or anything like that. I'm a wrestler. If you like my wrestling, support my wrestling and enjoy it, we're done. That's my thing.
Hell yeah, he's a professional ass kicker, and he's going to professionally ass kick again this Saturday, February 13th. And you can find out all the information that you need at bloodsport.watch. This is the first time ever, and this is a conjunction, again, much like all of the Bloodsport, with GCW, Game Changer Wrestling. And again, I pray to the pro wrestling and MMA combat sports gods for literally Bloodsport coming down and descending from the heavens or hell, because that's what you're going to see. It's people with hell to pay on each other. So if you like bodies hitting the floor, you're going to see it at Bloodsport. Damn it.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So again, Royce, thank you so much for joining us here. Thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and yes, Twitch. We are on Twitch as well. And I mean, Royce, you're subscribed, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I actually create a few accounts so I can subscribe more times.
See, damn right. So again, be like a former NWA champion, a tag team champion, a Defy tag team champion, one half of the West Coast Stretching Crew, and Bloodsport competitor. Go ahead and hit and like, share, and subscribe. But if you don't believe my word for it, or even Royce, well, here's Zeta Zang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zang. Make sure you subscribe to According